NFL insider Jonathan Jones. And JJ, I feel like when we first talked about the Dak injury for the hamstring, you initially said maybe we might not see Dak play again, but that was kind of dependent on how Cowboys would go for the rest of the year. Now it seems that hamstring injury is certainly more serious than initially feared. What's maybe the prognosis of how the Cowboys move forward here with going for the surgery?
Yeah, Zach, great memory there, because that's absolutely what we were talking about, right? Is that if he goes on injured reserve and then for those 4 games before surgery was really thought of, maybe he comes out of that injured reserve and the Cowboys season is essentially toast and it's not worth the highest paid player in the NFL coming back. That's what he ultimately determined. But like you said, like we talked about last week, you could almost see the writing on the wall for the end of the season for Dak Prescott, and now we know today that it will officially be over after he undergoes surgery on Wednesday in the New York area on that hamstring. Dak Prescott done for the 2024 season.
So Cowboys likely just going to ride forward with Cooper Rush. We did see a little bit of Trey Lance this past weekend. Do you think that moving forward we might see even more of him just to figure out what they have in Trey Lance, or is there no need to even do that? Because, of course, when Dak comes back, he is the guy.
So what you have right now is a Dallas Cowboys team that, no question about it, is going to be starting Cooper Rush at quarterback. He's 5-2 in his career as a starting quarterback with the Cowboys. Those 2 losses, of course, both coming against the Philadelphia Eagles. We saw a little bit of Trey Lance, but I was talking with someone who was paying very close attention to that game in the NFL, who said, my goodness, how bad must Trey Lance be for them to not turn to Trey Lance more than they did and away from Cooper Rush. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys, having had Trey Lance in their program now for more than a year, they know something about his skills on the field that perhaps we don't. And I see this a lot. I say this a lot. You know, sometimes they do know something. I know that we're all questioning, man, where's Trey Lance? Doesn't he have to be a better option? Sometimes the answer is no. And so Mike McCarthy didn't really waste any time this week in saying, Cooper Rush is going to start against the Houston Texans. This isn't going to be a battle on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's not going to be some gamesmanship, on Saturday about who's going to start and what insider is going to break that news. It's Cooper Rush. So remember, this is a quarterback in Trey Lance who, if you combine, there was a great stat out on Twitter, and I'm blanking on who actually came up with it, that when you look at the pass attempts for Trey Lance from high school to college to the NFL, it barely outpaces the number of pass attempts for Tom Brady at age 45 in his final season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He clearly doesn't have that experience. He didn't have it in college. He has not had it in the pros. And this is someone that the Cowboys, led by owner GM Jerry Jones, sent a 4th-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers, who did backflips when they got the 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. And now he's at the end of his rookie contract. Look, we may see Trey Lance play more for the Cowboys eventually. We may even see him start for the Cowboys eventually. That depends on how this season ultimately goes. But for right now, the Cowboys are being very, very clear. They're going with Cooper Rush.
Yeah, it depends on how the season goes, but it just feels like it's a lost season with just all the chirping coming out and hearing from Micah Parsons and all the talk going around with Coach McCarthy. But now when you lose your starting QB, does this maybe buy McCarthy more time, a little bit longer of a leash, if Jerry Jones was thinking about going away from him?
Man, I really appreciate you, Zach. You are a very kind-hearted person. You structured that sentence and that question incredibly well. I don't see a world where Mike McCarthy is coaching the Dallas Cowboys in 2025. He and the rest of the coaching staff are on expiring deals. This is clearly a lost season. They've had a number of successful regular seasons, right? Those 12-13 win seasons. In fact, the past 3 years up until this season, of course, the only team with more regular season victories than Mike McCarthy's Dallas Cowboys were the Kansas City Chiefs. But clearly, they did not have the success in the postseason. And that is what Jerry Jones wanted. And when he brought back Mike McCarthy. Last January, after that incredibly disappointing playoff loss to the Green Bay Packers, it was all about getting over that hump. It was all about playing deep into January, hopefully playing into February for the Dallas Cowboys. And now, we just turned our clocks back an hour, and the Dallas Cowboys season is over. We didn't make it to Thanksgiving. We didn't make it to Christmas. We made it halfway through the year, and we all knew that the Cowboys season was over. And so now it's about playing out the string, and we have the playoff picture right there. But let me put this into even more context, because you see the Cowboys at 3-6. Understand that you have the Packers and the Vikings. You got the NFC North. You're going to need at least 9 wins in order to make the playoffs this year. You might need 10 in the NFC, but you will need at least 9. You have the Cowboys, who have already played 9 games. Quick math means they have 8 more games left this season. So to get to 9, they need 6 wins. They have to go 6-2 the rest of the year to even be in consideration to make the wild card. No one thinks they're going to do that. No one believes that they're going to do that. Maybe folks inside that building, of course, but no one outside of that building. So this season is lost. I think Jerry Jones does not want to make a coaching change mid-season. He has said that many times. I think he said it as recently as Sunday. That's usually what he does. He lets coaches play out the final year of their contract. I don't anticipate that being any different here, but I don't think anyone in Dallas will be surprised after Week 18, after the final game of the season, that Jerry Jones opts to let the contract expire and he brings on a new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
We knew that this was trending this way. Dak was going to be out for an extended period of time. The hope was that surgery was not needed, but it looks like, Danny, it's heading that way. Obviously, this is not good news for the Cowboys.
No, it's not good news, especially when you just gave him $60 million a year and you were hoping this guy was going to take the next step in his career. Now that's derailed for at least another season. But I think this is about protecting your most valuable asset. You've invested the most amount of money in him. The season has, come apart. You're not going to make the playoffs, so why not make sure he is 100% healthy and ready to go to next season for the Cowboys? So I think this is just, the season is a wash. You're Jerry Jones, you're a businessman, and you're saying, let's not let things get any worse. Dak hasn't played too bad. There's not much talent around him. You've had injuries all over the place. Let's just call the season what it is. It's a wash, and get Dak Prescott ready to go for 2025.
So would you say that at this point of the season, the Cowboys are just, that's it?
Yeah, I think
Cooper
so.
Rush, and that's...
But see, here's the thing. I think personally they should play Trey Lance and see what they have in the player that they traded for the 49ers. He's young. Everybody kind of knows what Cooper Rush is. He's a career backup. He's not going to be anything that you could trade away at any time. Maybe he's your long-term backup for Dak Prescott. But if you play Trey Lance, this is a player that was a top 5 overall pick that if he comes and plays well, you might be able to move him in an offseason and get some assets in return, some draft picks or a draft pick for a young player, and actually turn that trade into something more valuable than guys just sitting on the bench all year. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see both Cooper Rush and Trey Lance at some point this season. And again, if it was me, I would probably play Trey Lance sooner rather than later and give him an extended, opportunity.
Perhaps quarterback by committee for the Cowboys as we move forward. Certainly not a good recipe for success. They're going to be without Dak Prescott for the foreseeable future. Dak